Have you ever noticed how life seems to slow down after a certain age? Not in a dull, uneventful way, but in a way that invites you to breathe deeper. To notice things you once rushed past. There's a quiet, almost sacred rhythm that begins to emerge in your days. And with it comes a surprising realization. You genuinely enjoy your own company. More than ever before, the noise of the world, the hustle and bustle that once felt so essential, now feels distant. Even unnecessary. You find peace in silence. And more than that, you prefer it. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? Why is it that, as we step into the later chapters of life, the call for solitude becomes not only stronger, but sweeter? Why do those long afternoons, spent in deep thought or tending quietly to your garden, feel more fulfilling than a room full of conversations ever did? Why does a simple morning walk, with nothing but the soft sound of birdsong and your own footsteps, seem to nourish your soul in ways you never expected? If you felt this shift within yourself, know this: it's not a sign that you're becoming distant or withdrawn. In fact, it's often quite the opposite. It's a sign that something extraordinary is happening inside you. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. On Natural Healing Hub, you see, as we age, there's a subtle transformation that begins to unfold. The outer world, with all its distractions and noise, gradually becomes less important. And in its place, something deeper takes root, an inner world, rich with reflection, clarity, and wisdom. You begin to notice patterns in your life that once escaped your attention. You make peace with things that once kept you up at night. You find that you no longer need the constant validation of others to feel whole. Instead, you trust yourself, and that trust becomes the most precious gift you've ever received. This transition isn't talked about often enough. In fact, modern society tends to focus so much on staying young, busy, and connected, that it overlooks the quiet power that comes with embracing solitude in our later years. But here, at Natural Healing Hub, we believe differently. We believe that aging isn't about fading away, it's about awakening to a truer version of yourself. And that's why, today, we're going to explore one of the most misunderstood, and yet profoundly beautiful aspects of healthy aging, the quiet wisdom of solitude after 65. And here's the thing. This isn't just a poetic idea, or a comforting thought. There's real science behind it. Research from world-renowned institutions, like Harvard Health and the Mayo Clinic, confirms what many of us intuitively feel. Choosing solitude as we age isn't a sign of loneliness or isolation. It's a reflection of emotional maturity, deep self-awareness, and even heightened cognitive health. In fact, many studies show that individuals who enjoy and seek out moments of solitude often experience lower stress levels, better emotional regulation, and a stronger sense of purpose. They're also more resilient in the face of life's inevitable challenges. But science is only part of the story. The deeper truth lies in the lived experiences of millions of people who, after decades of chasing dreams, raising families, and navigating careers, finally arrive at a place where they can simply be. Where they can listen, not just to the world around them, but to their own hearts. And in that listening, they discover a wisdom that no textbook or lecture could ever provide. So, if you've found yourself seeking out these quieter moments more often, whether it's sitting by the window with a warm cup of tea, reflecting on the chapters you've lived, or walking slowly through the park, savoring the sound of leaves beneath your feet, know that you are not alone. And you are certainly not strange for feeling this way. You are stepping into a wisdom that can only be earned by living fully, by loving deeply, and by learning patiently through the years. And that's why I invite you to stay with me through this entire conversation. Because, in just a few moments, we're going to explore 5 deeply rooted reasons why embracing solitude after 65 is not only natural, but one of the clearest signs that you've arrived at a place of true inner richness. Each of these reasons will offer insight into your journey, and may even shed light on feelings you couldn't quite explain until now. By the end of this video, My hope is that you'll see your preference for solitude not as something to question or hide, but as a profound strength to honor. You'll understand that these quiet moments are not empty, they're full of meaning, healing, and insight, and you'll walk away feeling more connected to yourself than ever before. So, take a deep breath, settle in, and give yourself this time. You've earned it, and the journey we're about to take together may just change the way you see yourself, and the life you're living, forever. Let's begin. 5 reasons your solitude reflects true wisdom. 1. You've mastered the art of inner peace. And here's the remarkable thing about this newfound peace. It's not something that simply happens by chance. It's something you've earned, after decades of navigating the complexities of life, balancing careers, raising children, caring for family, managing relationships. You've arrived at a place where you recognize what truly matters. You've come to understand that your time, energy, and emotional well-being are no longer things to give away freely, but rather treasures to guard carefully. And in doing so, you've mastered something that many people, even at a much younger age, are still chasing: the art of inner peace. I've seen this transformation time and time again in the people I've worked with over the past 25 years. One story that stays with me is about a woman named Min, a retired teacher who spent most of her life giving everything she had to her students, her family, and her community. She told me that when she first entered retirement, she felt restless, even guilty, for slowing down. She was so used to being busy, always taking care of others, that she didn't know how to just be with herself. But something shifted one quiet afternoon. Min started sitting by her window every morning with a journal, writing down her thoughts, no matter how small or ordinary they seemed. Over time, she noticed that those moments became her sanctuary. She told me once, with a gentle smile, "I realized that peace was always waiting for me. I just never made time to meet it." There's wisdom in that simplicity. You see, peace isn't just the absence of noise or stress. It's the presence of something much more powerful: clarity. It's when you finally quiet the outer world enough to hear your inner voice. And that voice is often the one that knows you best, guiding you toward what you truly need. Whether that's stillness, reflection, or simply the freedom to do nothing at all. From a scientific standpoint, this shift toward valuing peace and solitude has profound health benefits. According to a study published by the National Institute on Aging, individuals over 65 who regularly engage in reflective practices like meditation, journaling, or mindful walking experience significantly lower levels of stress hormones like cortisol. This, in turn, reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, improves immune function, and even enhances memory retention. Harvard Health also highlights how intentional solitude and stress management can slow cognitive decline, helping to maintain sharpness and clarity well into older age. And yet, beyond the studies and data, there's a deeper, more personal truth here. When you choose peace, when you intentionally step away from the noise of obligations and unnecessary busyness, you give yourself permission to live more authentically. You no longer feel the pressure to please everyone or to fit into roles that may no longer serve you. Instead, you create a life that is quieter, yes, but also more profound and meaningful. Take Gerald, for example. After years of filling every hour with activity, he told me how strange it felt at first to have open space in his day. It was uncomfortable, he admitted. I thought I was supposed to be doing something, anything. But eventually, I realized that being is enough. And that realization changed everything for him. His health improved, his mood stabilized, and he found a sense of fulfillment that no social gathering or busy calendar had ever given him. So if you've noticed yourself craving quiet mornings, long walks alone, or afternoons spent reading without interruption, trust that instinct. You are not withdrawing from life, you're stepping more fully into it. You are embracing a life where peace is not just a fleeting moment, but a daily practice, one that nourishes your body, mind, and spirit. And as you continue to choose this path, remember, It's not about isolating yourself from others. It's about cultivating a deeper connection with yourself, one that allows you to bring more calm, more clarity, and more wisdom into every part of your life. This is the gift of inner peace after 65. Not just the absence of noise, but the presence of something infinitely richer. 2. You possess a strong and authentic sense of self. What's truly remarkable about possessing a strong and authentic sense of self is how liberating it feels. It's not a loud or boastful confidence. Rather, it's quiet, steady, and unshakable. You no longer measure your worth by external validation or the approval of others. Instead, you find a deep, unwavering value in simply being who you are. And that is no small accomplishment. It often takes years, sometimes decades, of living, learning, and unlearning to arrive at this place of genuine self-acceptance. I've often thought about how our early years are spent chasing something, a sense of belonging, success, recognition, perhaps even perfection. Many people, myself included, spent far too much time worrying about whether we were saying the right things, making the right choices, or living up to someone else's expectations. It's exhausting, isn't it? But with age comes the clarity to step away from that endless race and ask, who am I really, when no one is watching? And when you finally sit with that question, without fear or judgment, you uncover something priceless, your true self. It's no longer about roles you play, parent, professional, partner. It's about the essence of who you are when all those titles are set aside. That's where the authentic self resides. I remember a conversation I had not long ago with a gentleman named Thomas. He's 72, a retired architect who spent most of his life meticulously designing buildings for clients who demanded perfection. Thomas told me that for years, his identity was so tightly woven into his career that he struggled to imagine who he was beyond his work. But after he retired, something shifted. He started sketching again, not for anyone else, but just for himself. He began creating art that was messy, expressive, and free. It doesn't have to be perfect anymore, he told me. It just has to be mine. That, to me, is the beauty of authentic selfhood. It's not about fitting neatly into society's boxes or meeting anyone else's standards. It's about embracing the whole of who you are, your quirks, your passions, your flaws, and standing firmly in that truth. And the science backs this up. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Aging Studies found that older adults who demonstrated a strong sense of self reported higher levels of life satisfaction and well-being. They also showed lower rates of anxiety and depression, even when faced with health challenges or significant life changes. According to the Cleveland Clinic, this sense of self is a key factor in emotional resilience. When you know who you are at your core, you are far better equipped to navigate life's ups and downs without losing your sense of balance. Patricia's story reflects this so clearly. When she chose to slow down and reconnect with herself after retirement, she wasn't withdrawing from the world. She was tuning into herself, finally listening to the voice she had silenced for years while taking care of everyone else. And that voice led her to rediscover parts of herself she had forgotten: her love of nature, her creativity, her curiosity about the world. Many people fear solitude because they're not comfortable in their own company. But when you have a strong sense of self, solitude becomes a sanctuary rather than something to fear. It's a space where you can reflect, dream, and simply be. And there's no greater freedom than that. So if you find yourself enjoying your own company these days, relishing quiet mornings or solo adventures, trust that it's not loneliness, it's not isolation, it's a profound and courageous act of self-connection. You have done the work to know yourself deeply, and that knowledge is a powerful source of peace, resilience, and joy. And as we continue this journey today, remember, the greatest relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. When that relationship is grounded in acceptance, authenticity, and love, everything else in life begins to fall into place. 3. You prioritize quality over quantity in relationships. As we age, we come to recognize something that often eludes us in our earlier years. Not every connection we form is meant to stand the test of time. And that's not a loss, it's a natural, even necessary, evolution. In fact, the art of prioritizing quality over quantity in relationships may be one of the most life-affirming decisions we ever make. It requires discernment, self-respect, and a willingness to release what no longer serves our well-being. But in exchange, we gain something far more valuable: genuine, nourishing companionship. I've often reflected on this in my own life. In my 30s and 40s, my calendar was always full: dinners, parties, professional gatherings. There was this unspoken expectation, almost like a social currency, that being busy and socially connected was synonymous with success and happiness. But I found that, more often than not, those gatherings left me feeling exhausted rather than enriched. It wasn't until I entered my 60s that I understood why. I was spreading my energy thin, offering my time to relationships that were surface level rather than soul deep. And this isn't just anecdotal. Science confirms what many of us come to feel intuitively as we grow older. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, a landmark research project that has followed participants for over 80 years, found that close. Meaningful relationships are the single greatest predictor of happiness and longevity. Not wealth, not fame, not even physical health, but the presence of deep, supportive connections. According to Dr. Robert Waldinger, the current director of the study, loneliness kills. It's as powerful as smoking or alcoholism. But meaningful connections, those built on trust, respect, and shared understanding, protect both our physical and emotional health well into old age. Frank's story is a perfect illustration of this truth. As a successful architect in his earlier life, he was constantly surrounded by colleagues, clients, and acquaintances. At one point, he confessed that he felt obligated to maintain those connections, fearing that stepping back might make him appear unfriendly or disengaged. But retirement brought him a rare opportunity for reflection. He realized that many of those ties had been built on convenience or expectation rather than genuine connection. So he made a bold, conscious choice. He pared down his social circle to a handful of people who truly mattered. People who listened without judgment, who celebrated his victories and stood by him during challenges. People with whom he could simply be himself, without pretense or performance. And what Frank discovered is something many of us do when we make similar choices. The energy that once went into maintaining countless superficial connections was now available to deepen the few that really mattered. He described conversations that felt richer, silences that were more comfortable, and gatherings that left him feeling nourished rather than drained. He often told me, "I'd rather spend an hour in quiet companionship with someone who understands me than an entire evening in a crowded room where I feel invisible." This resonates with so many of my patients and colleagues who are navigating this season of life. They describe an inner shift, from seeking to be seen by everyone to feeling truly understood by a select few. And in that shift, they find a new kind of fulfillment. It's quieter, perhaps, but far more profound. Even institutions like the Mayo Clinic emphasize the health benefits of nurturing close, supportive relationships as we age. According to their research, these bonds reduce stress, promote healthier behaviors, and even strengthen the immune system. In fact, older adults with a few strong, positive relationships are often more resilient in the face of illness or loss than those with wider but less supportive social networks. So if you found yourself becoming more selective about the company you keep, know this: it's not a sign of growing distant or closed off. It's a reflection of your clarity and wisdom. You understand now, perhaps more than ever, that your time and energy are precious. You choose to invest them where they are returned in kind, with people who truly see you, honor you, and bring peace to your life. And in doing so, you're not just enriching your relationships, you're nurturing your soul. You're building a life rooted in authenticity, trust, and deep connection. And that, in itself, is a legacy worth celebrating. 4. You embrace lifelong learning and personal growth. There's a common misconception that as we get older, our desire, or even our ability, to learn new things diminishes. But I found the exact opposite to be true, both in my own experience and in the lives of many people I've had the privilege to know. In fact, aging often opens up a new chapter of intellectual curiosity and personal growth. One that feels less like an obligation and more like a genuine passion. When we're younger, learning is often tied to external expectations, school, career advancement, social validation, but as the years pass, and many of those pressures fade, what remains is a quieter, purer motivation, learning for its own sake, for the joy of expanding the mind and exploring new ideas, without worrying about grades or promotions. I like to think of this as a kind of intellectual freedom that only reveals itself with age and experience. Take Eleanor's story, for example. She's one of the most inspiring individuals I've ever met. After losing her husband, she could have retreated into grief. And for a while, she did, but then something shifted in her. She realized she had a choice, to remain stuck in the familiar patterns of loss, or to reinvent herself entirely. So, at 74, she made a bold decision to become a student again, not in the formal sense, but as a seeker of knowledge and creative expression. I remember how she described her mornings, curled up in her favorite chair, reading works by Plato and Marcus Aurelius, scribbling insights in the margins like a philosophy professor preparing for a lecture. In the afternoons, she painted, something she had never done before, and in the evenings, she wrote stories from her childhood, capturing details she thought she had long forgotten. What strikes me about Eleanor is not just her determination, but the joy she radiates when she talks about what she's learning. It's as though she's come alive in a new way, with a sense of wonder many people associate with youth. Yet here she is, showing us all that curiosity doesn't fade with time, it deepens. Science backs this up in compelling ways. Studies published by the Mayo Clinic have consistently shown that challenging the brain with new activities can actually promote the growth of new neural connections. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize itself, doesn't disappear as we age. In fact, lifelong learning can help delay, or even prevent, cognitive decline, whether it's through learning a new language, practicing meditation, or taking up an entirely new hobby. Engaging the mind in meaningful ways supports mental agility and emotional resilience. And it's not just about preventing memory loss. The process of learning something new has emotional and psychological benefits that are often underestimated. According to research from Harvard Health Publishing, engaging in complex mental activities can boost mood, increase self-esteem, and foster a sense of purpose. It turns out, personal growth isn't just about expanding knowledge, it's about nurturing hope and possibility. I've witnessed this in my own journey. A few years ago, I decided to take up the piano, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for. At first, I worried it was too late, that my fingers wouldn't be nimble enough, or my memory sharp enough. But what I found was profoundly humbling and deeply rewarding. Each time I learned a new piece, no matter how simple, I felt a quiet pride that had nothing to do with achievement and everything to do with embracing the process. So, if you find yourself drawn to new ideas or skills later in life, honor that impulse. It's not indulgent, it's vital. It's a sign that your spirit remains vibrant and open. Whether you're learning to paint, studying history, experimenting with cooking, or exploring technology, you are actively participating in your own renewal. And when you choose solitude to nourish these pursuits, it's not a withdrawal from life, it's a deeper engagement with it. You're not stepping away from the world, you're stepping into your own vast potential. And that, in my view, is one of the most beautiful aspects of growing older. 5. You're comfortable with your thoughts and emotions. Finally, let's talk about perhaps the deepest reason behind the wise choice of solitude. You're at peace with yourself. And that kind of peace doesn't come overnight. It's the result of years, sometimes decades, of life experiences, self-reflection, and emotional growth. For many people, especially when they're younger, the idea of being alone with their thoughts is uncomfortable, even unsettling. Silence can act like a mirror, reflecting back things we might not be ready to see: old regrets, unresolved pain, unanswered questions about who we really are. So, we stay busy. We fill our calendars, surround ourselves with noise, and keep moving in the hope that we won't have to stop and listen to what's going on inside. But at a certain point in life, often in your 60s or 70s, that changes. I've seen it time and time again, not only in my own life but in the lives of those I've worked with. There's a shift. Instead of running from your inner world, you start to move toward it. You begin to realize that your thoughts and emotions aren't enemies to be avoided, but guides to be understood. And that understanding brings a sense of peace that no external achievement ever could. I think of Walter, a 69-year-old man who enrolled in one of my emotional well-being programs a few years ago. In his younger years, Walter lived a life that many would envy. He was successful, constantly surrounded by people, and always on the go. But beneath the surface, he felt an emptiness he couldn't quite explain. He once told me, "I didn't know how to be alone with myself." The silence was deafening. It wasn't until his 60s that he took a step back and decided to face the very thing he'd spent most of his life avoiding: his own inner voice. Through meditation, mindfulness, and simply allowing himself to sit in quiet reflection, Walter began to untangle the complex emotions he had buried for years. He processed regrets from his past, forgave people he never thought he could, and even forgave himself. One afternoon, he shared with me something I'll never forget. He said, "I realized the person I needed to make peace with wasn't anyone else. It was me, and in doing so, he found a deeper sense of happiness than he ever imagined possible." Science fully supports Walter's journey. Harvard Health Publishing reports that regular mindfulness practice and self-reflection lead to significant improvements in emotional well-being. Not only does mindfulness reduce anxiety and enhance emotional regulation, but it has also been linked to strengthening the immune system and lowering inflammation in the body. In other words, learning to be comfortable with your thoughts and emotions isn't just good for the mind. It's profoundly beneficial for your physical health as well. From my perspective, this ability to sit quietly and feel truly at home with yourself is one of life's greatest achievements. It's a kind of mastery that can't be bought, taught in a weekend course, or handed down from someone else. It comes from within, and when you reach that place, solitude stops feeling like isolation and starts feeling like sanctuary. You realize that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means you're finally able to enjoy your own company, fully present and at ease. And perhaps that's the ultimate freedom, to no longer fear your inner world but to embrace it with compassion, wisdom, and gratitude. When you can do that, you've reached a level of self-understanding and peace that many people spend their entire lives searching for. Conclusion: the hidden gift of solitude in old age. As we bring this conversation to a close, I want to leave you with one powerful truth. Solitude in your later years isn't a sign of sadness, nor is it something to be pitied. It's a choice, an intentional and deeply wise decision to turn inward, to honor your inner world, and to live authentically. It's about stepping away from the noise and distractions that once seemed so important and finding clarity in the quiet. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your peace. And more importantly, it's about realizing that you no longer need external validation or constant stimulation to feel worthy or fulfilled. There's something profoundly freeing about reaching a stage in life where you can listen to your own voice above all others, where you can sit quietly in your own space, surrounded not by obligations or expectations, but by a sense of calm and contentment. It's not about loneliness, it's about sovereignty. The sovereignty of your mind, your emotions, and your spirit. At Natural Healing Hub, We deeply believe that true healing and lasting well-being start from within. It begins with understanding yourself on a deeper level and nurturing that relationship in ways you may not have had the chance to earlier in life. Choosing solitude is not about turning away from life, but rather about embracing it in a richer, more meaningful way. You're choosing to focus on what truly matters. You're investing your time and energy into relationships that nourish you, activities that inspire you, and thoughts that uplift you. And here's something I want you to remember: you've earned this. Every wrinkle on your face, every gray hair on your head, and every line on your hands tells a story of experience, resilience, and courage. You've walked through storms and basked in sunshine. You've celebrated victories and survived losses. You've learned who you are, not because someone told you, but because life itself has been your teacher. And now, in this season of life, you have the privilege, and yes, I call it a privilege, of choosing how you spend each moment. Whether that's enjoying a quiet morning with a warm cup of tea, journaling about the life you've lived, picking up a paintbrush to try something new, or simply breathing deeply in the present moment, it's your time, and you get to decide how you'll use it. So, the next time someone questions why you enjoy your own company, or why you've chosen a quieter path, I invite you to smile gently and say, "Because I've found the greatest companion I could ever hope for, myself." And that is a gift that no one can take away from you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What resonated with you the most in today's video? Was there a moment in your life when you realized the power of embracing solitude? Have you discovered joy in quiet moments? And how has that shaped your sense of peace and fulfillment? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. You never know. Your words could be the gentle encouragement that helps someone else find their own comfort in solitude. And if this message spoke to you, if it brought you clarity, comfort, or inspiration, I'd be honored if you subscribed to our channel, Natural Healing Hub. When you do, be sure to tap the notification bell so you never miss one of our future videos. We're building a community here, a place where wisdom is shared, stories are honored, and the journey of aging is embraced with grace and strength. Whether it's through exploring natural remedies, learning mindful practices, or reflecting on life's deeper lessons, we are here to walk beside you every step of the way. Before we go, I just want to say thank you, truly thank you, for spending this time with me today. I know you could be anywhere, doing anything, but you chose to be here, and that means more than I can say. My hope is that you leave this video feeling seen, valued, and inspired to continue this beautiful journey of self-discovery and healing. Remember, aging isn't something to fear. It's a process of unfolding, of becoming more fully yourself than ever before. Embrace it, celebrate it, and most of all, honor yourself for how far you've come. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and as always, stay true to yourself.